Good morning. We are doing the Bhagavad Gita. So we had completed chapter 2, verse 32, up to 32 verse. And we will be starting today chapter 2, verse 33 onwards of the Bhagavad Gita. I'll do a small recap of what we have done earlier. So till verse 32, Sri Krishna is trying to exhort Arjuna, saying that you should continue to fight this war, because it's your beholden duty. You have to do those things, whether you like it or not. It is important for Kshatriyas. I have explained 4 races, so just a brief touch on that. And I had told you all that as a Kshatriya, his job is to fight a war, a righteous war. And if he were not to fight that war, then naturally he will not get an opportunity in the first place, otherwise, and even he may not enter the heavens. So it is like telling him that there could be some issues. So we are doing Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 33 now. Now, if you refuse to fight this righteous war, then shirking your duty and losing your reputation, you will incur sin. And now, first I will qualify the word sin. Now, this word sin is an English word. See, we say pap or punya. Pap. Pap means supposedly sin. But it is not pap or punya that we are talking about over here. We are talking about what is called as a karma, an action which can lead to repercussions. A dangerous reaction could be there. So that is the word sin. So now let us see what he says. Now if you refuse to fight a righteous war, then shirking your duty and losing your reputation, you will incur sin. It's a ominous warning to him. So Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't do this. Because first and foremost, the war that is there is a righteous war. Now, what is this righteous war and what is this? As a Kshatriya, your job is to fight. Now, the word righteous, so it is described as dharma, dharmik. So what is this dharmic term, the word dharmic? This term is actually misinterpreted in various places, supposedly as this is my dharma. Now let us say, what is the dharma of certain people in India or abroad, wherever they are fighting a war? Think about it. There is a country called Russia which is fighting against a country. Now, according to the Russians, that was their land. Think about it. According to the Russians, that land where they are fighting belongs to them. Likewise, India also fights a war. Sometimes you will find that there are some wars which have been fought for the territory which seem to have belonging to us, one particular country. So it is Kashmir which belongs to India. So they feel that this is ours, so we have to fight for it. Now this kind of war that is there is righteous, because the belief system says that that land belongs to me. I got to fight for it. Now let us see from the other person's perspective. There is another country which has one freedom. They say that this is our land, we have to fight for it. Alright? So you will find that Ukraine is fighting because they feel that it is their land and they have to fight for it. Similarly, on the other side, there is Pakistan, which says that this is our land, we have to fight for it. Now, all these countries are doing the same. So everybody has a perspective. Alright? The perspective is their own. It is not the other person's perspective. So if you ask India, India will say we are fighting righteous war. Russia will say they are fighting righteous war. The other countries will also say the same thing, but from their perspective. So everybody has a perspective. Everybody has a way of looking at the same problem in a different way. The enemy always feels that they are wrong. The other party is wrong. So now think about this. Here, Arjuna and the Pandavas are fighting a war. Right? His brothers, everybody is fighting on one side, and Kauravas are fighting on the other side. This particular place which they are fighting for belonged to the Pandavas earlier. They lost it in a game of dice. For 14 years they had to be out. Out there in the wild, in the open. And 14 years later, they went to claim that land, saying that this is what terms and conditions, you are supposed to return it back. Now Duryodhana, who is a Kaurava, says that we are not going to return this land. So there is a fight over there. There are too many pros and cons over here. Arjuna and his kith and kin may say that we are doing the right thing. The Kauravas may say that they are doing the right thing. So who is right and who is wrong, nobody can say. It's an individual perspective. But if there is a precondition that you have to return it back, so it is important to return back. I am sure you know what happened with Hong Kong. Hong Kong's lease expired. And the Britishers had to give back Hong Kong. Now, Chinese took over Hong Kong. Naturally, they wanted to have a rule in that particular place. But there was a problem there. The local people thought otherwise. So now they have internal strife. Same way, across the world, right across the world, people are fighting for different territories. These wars where they believe that they are right. Whose perspective is it? It is that individual's perspective. Now Sri Krishna says over here, if you refuse to fight this righteous war, that means it is your duty to fight this war and not give up. There is a term, after so many years you have to take the land back. So if the person just refuses and says, okay, let them take it, that is not correct. Similarly, across the world, you will find that there are these various countries, they are fighting on their own for their land. They are fighting a righteous war. All this which I am telling you is the material worldly aspect of it. Later on, I will explain to you what is the spiritual aspect of it in the end. But remember these words. So he has to fight this righteous war, Arjuna. And if you do not fight, your duty is your dharma. Why are you not doing it? Your swadharma. You are supposed to be a Kshatriya. Your job is to fight the war. Why is it that you are not fighting? So, there would be a loss of reputation. People will say, You are not a good person. You should fight for it. And everybody will say that he is a bad guy. Because refusing to do this kind of a duty is not correct. There is something which we all have to also take into account, that if we do not do this kind of a duty, we incur sin. Alright? So now we will go to the next verse. We are doing Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, verse 34. Nay, people will also pour undying infamy on you, and infamy brought on a man, enjoying popular esteem, is worse than death. We can do the verse 35 also. So we are doing chapter 2, verse 35. And the warrior chiefs who thought highly of you will now despise you, thinking that it was fear which drove you away from the battle. So here Sri Krishna is telling him, you will become infamous. People will look down upon you and they will say, what kind of a person are you? The whole world will look at you in that manner. Now, I will give you an understanding of what this infamy is. You may think that you are doing it for your sake. Arjuna is doing it for his sake. No, I don't want to fight. I don't want to get into this kind of a scrap. Why should I do this? But here the repercussions are not just with him. It's an entire clan of Pandavas. His own wife, his own children, their grandchildren. Can you imagine this could be the case? Everybody in that family plus the kingdom will look upon him as somebody who left the battlefield. It's not good. And this person, Arjuna, will become infamous. He is going to be treated very badly. Not only him, his own kids, when they go to school, that can happen, isn't it? They will all be looked upon. See, your father did this. Or his wife, when she goes around here and there, wherever, they will all look upon her. You, this is the woman, her husband was like this. It's not just that person. It's everybody. See, please remember one thing. If you have a narrow point of view, you are only going to think of yourself. But if you think of the world around you, just not you, but the whole world is going to get affected by it. That is why he says you will become infamous. Undying infamy. And if that infamy is brought upon you, you will lose popular esteem. People will think of you in a very derogatory manner. And that is worse than death. See, at least where death is concerned, you are once dead and gone. But after death, what happens? Think, what would happen after a person dies? Even after death, everybody is going to say the same thing. Oh, he was a cheater, he was a loser, he was this, he was that. They will not treat that person nicely, even in memory. Like today, if we were to take the case of World War II, and World War I also rather, World War II, the main antagonist was Hitler. Who can remember him in a nice manner? Isn't it infamy? And then he died of suicide or something like that. What are people supposed to think? Here is a great fighter who was fighting for his country or whatever, and suddenly he kills himself up and he destroyed the world, half of the world. What is this? So it is infamy. So after death also, there is no good word for him, like that. And the warrior chiefs who thought highly of you will now despise you. Your own generals, there are soldiers in your own army. They will look upon you and see, this fellow, what kind of a guy is he? he is going away from the battlefield. I don't think this is correct. And that is how it will be. So, I'm thinking it was fear which drove you away from the battle. So, fear can drive a person away from the battle. And the first thought is, oh, he's afraid. Isn't that how things are? He's afraid. That's why he's doing like this. Let us move on to the next verse. So we were doing chapter 2, verse 36 from the Bhagavad Gita. And your enemy, disparaging your might, will speak many unbecoming words. What can be more distressing than this? So I was talking about, even in our life, we play matches, like a cricket match or football match or those kind of matches. And sometimes the team just throws the match and walks away from there. Or in tennis also, you will find that the opponent says, I can't fight this person, I will go away from here. So the other person gets a walkover, right? And that is so disgraceful for the person who has just left and gone. So Krishna is telling him the same thing. Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't do this, because even your own folks plus the enemy will look at you as somebody who is so afraid, of this and walking away from the battlefield. And that should not be the case. Now, this is something which people many a times, they ask me, isn't that what Sri Krishna also did? Sri Krishna also walked out in front of Shishupal. And that too 19 times. It's not once or twice, 19 times. He just went away from the battlefield. And in one battle, he literally ran away. And that is why Sri Krishna's name in that particular incident is Ran Chhod Das. Ran Chhod Das. That means run means battlefield. Chhod. Chhod means run away. A person who runs away from the battlefield. But that story is different. Krishna had promised Shishupal's mother that I am going to let go of your son many times. Okay? And I will let it be. Sometimes I will just not even kill him. And he waits for his 100th sin to occur, and then he kills Shishupal. So there was a promise fulfillment. So you can't put these two together. But people have asked me many a time, is it that the same? No, it is not that the same. So now we will do the next verse, and then I will give you a summary of all the 3-4 verses. So we are doing chapter 2, verse 37. From the Bhagavad Gita, die and you will win heaven, conquer and you enjoy sovereignty of the earth. Therefore stand up, Arjuna, determined to fight. So die and you will win heaven. We always wonder whether there is a heaven or a hell. Because in Hinduism and various other religions of this world, there is a concept of heaven and hell. So just now from this spiritual perspective, I am not explaining, I am explaining from what is written over here. So Sri Krishna is telling that after you die, you will go to heaven. But if you remember my previous satsangs, you will know that the soul doesn't go anywhere. Do you remember that? The soul doesn't go anywhere, it is there itself. It is unmanifest after death. But here he is telling Arjuna that if you die, you will go to heaven. Now these are two belief systems. These two belief systems are right from individual perspective. So this is individual perspective which you need to understand. The material worldly people, all the people who do not have any understanding of spiritual, they have this idea about death, about going to heaven or going to hell. so on and so forth. Spiritually perfect people know that there is nothing called heaven or hell. There is no such thing as heaven or hell. We become unmanifest. So when you become unmanifest, where are you going to go? You are going to be here itself, somewhere, and you become one soul. That is all you know. But the idea that you are going to heaven or hell is a material worldly idea. And Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna the material worldly idea. The reason is very simply this: Arjuna is not perfectly a spiritual being. He is not a spiritual being in that way. He is a material worldly person who is getting a training from Sri Krishna. Now try to think about everybody. They are getting training. See, if somebody says, I am spiritual, actually I was listening to something yesterday. The person says, oh, my mother is a yoga teacher. I am like this. I read scriptures. Sorry. You are not a spiritual person just because you are having the word yoga, Y-O-G-A over there. Yoga means union with God. Yoga doesn't mean physical exercises, okay? Whatever the exercises that you do with your mind, body and, breathing exercise and all that, those are meant for the body, this physical body of yours. And body doesn't go to heaven, neither to hell. Please remember this. It is for the betterment of your body so that you can live properly in this world. So that yoga is different. So the idea for a material worldly person that there is this person called Arjuna, and this Arjuna is going to go to heaven, or otherwise he is going to go to hell. So this has to be understood from the material worldly perspective. Conquer and you will enjoy sovereignty on the earth. So suppose you don't die, but you win this war. You become a sovereign. You will have many kingdoms under you because there are so many kings fighting along with you, and there are so many kings who are fighting against you. So you win all this war, you can get sovereignty over all the kingdom around you, and therefore stand and fight. So this is what Sri Krishna is telling him. So now let me give you the spiritual perspective of all this. First and foremost, Mahabharata as a war happens in your innermost being, inside of you. It's a fight between the good and the evil, both. It is constantly happening. It is something which happens so regularly in your life that you will be wondering, oh, there is a war called Mahabharata going outside. Okay, I can see it on a television also. No, this is constantly happening within you. The body has its own mechanism. The mind has its own mechanism. 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I was giving you an idea that mind is one of the sheaths. Mind is one of the sheaths. It is not real. It's one of the sheaths. Like this body, which is going to go in the earth. It's not real. It is there only for that temporary phase. Those who had listened to my previous satsang will understand. Body is only for that particular phase. After you die, you are going to get another body, and that body may not be this physical human body. It can be any other body. So then, what does this body contain? This body has got 5 sheaths total. The outermost is called the food body. Annamay Kosh. In Sanskrit, they call it Annamay Kosh. Second one is the pran. Pran means we do the breathing, no? Like we have pranayama, that. It's a life, breath, that particular one. The third one is the mind one, which is the manomay kosh. So there's a third one. It carries what is called as a disturbing phenomena. It is very judgmental. The mind is always judgmental about things. First and foremost, the judgments are these. What is this guy talking about? What is he talking about? This is not what I learnt. This is not what is there in the Bhagavad Gita. So we make judgments on things. We make judgments constantly. Then we have the intellectual body. That is the fourth one, which is the sheath. Fourth sheath is that. And then the fifth one, I told you, it's a happy body, Anandmay Kosh. So like that, there is this 5 sheaths which we are made up of. And none of these are the spirit soul. The spirit soul is not even connected per se. I had given you an explanation about water and so on and so forth. A water in a bottle. The bottle is not the water and water is not the bottle. Got the answer? So here all this Mahabharata or what is called the Bhagavad Gita is also happening within you. The divinity within you, which is what we call as Sri Krishna over here. And this person, which is there, full of these 5 sheaths, that is Arjuna. And there are the brothers of his, like Yudhishthir and so on and so forth. So they are also connected. Everything is connected. Now, this fight is the righteous fight. What is the righteous fight? Now, in our world, when we are thinking of something, there are 2 thoughts going on. One is to do the right stuff and one is to do the wrong stuff. We love to take the easy way out in anything and everything. Suppose there are people who have drinking problem, alcoholism. They also go through this battle within them. Should I drink? Shouldn't I drink? Should I drink? Shouldn't I drink? And finally they succumb to, I have to drink. So that portion which succumbs to this, and goes in the direction of not being righteous, is the Kauravas. The one which says you have to do the right stuff, which means you have to control it, which means you have to fight the war, fight it. I should not succumb to it. I should not succumb to it. That war is a righteous war. Let me give you another example. You see, we have our kids. All those who have kids will understand this. Now the kids are doing something. Let us say they are writing examination or they are going to school. Sometime, let me give you simple examples. Going to school. So what happens to the child? The child says to the mother or the father, I don't want to go to school today. And why is the child saying so? I don't want to get up. I don't want to go to school. I don't feel like it. And there is a war. Should I send the child to school or shouldn't I send? And many a times, the child is able to stay back home. And that war is lost. Why should the child stay back home for no rhyme or reason? Oh, he was not able to sleep in the night, that is why. But that is not the criteria. So again, what is righteous in this? You have to decide on that. So this war is constantly happening within us. Physically also it is happening. Now physical war which is happening within us, I will give you the understanding again. See, in our brain there are lots of triggers that are happening. These triggers are connected to our brain. So if we do something in a particular manner, the flow of a particular juice is there. Like the adrenaline flows, it flows and it makes you do the stuff which is become very aggressive, become very angry, become upset. Those kind of things happen. And sometimes when things are going right, we have the good hormones going out and we feel nice about it. So did you see the same thing, let us say adrenaline, it is good for running a race. But the same adrenaline can give us a lot of problems also. So there is a right and then there is a wrong in that. Likewise, even the happy hormones, there is something right and there is something wrong also in them. Right is when you are going in the righteous direction. When you are with your own beloved, maybe a legitimate person, then you are very happy. And that surge of hormones which happens, the happy ones, they are good. So that's the righteous one. But when you are with the wrong person and you are doing something wrong and still that particular hormone is reacting inside of you, that is not a righteous war. And naturally when you do something wrong, it is going to cause you misery in the future. So it's a war. So Mahabharata is a constant war. The Bhagavad Gita keeps on happening within us. So I have just given you a small idea about how we are also facing this on a constant basis. So we will stop over here. Take care. Have a very good day. Bye.